All right, welcome everybody. So glad to see you guys all here. So this is the Canador 2026 pre-departure orientation webinar. Um, so yeah, so we realize that not every well, it takes people a couple minutes to get in sometimes. So we're just going to give before we get started, we're just going to give people a couple minutes to funnel in. So I'm going to get started at 9:33. Just a heads up. So right now we're just going to be waiting. Um, Also, for your information, the session is roughly going to be about an hour and a half. It varies. But at the end of the hour and a half presentation, we're going to be doing a Q&A. You guys can see at the top, there's a little Q&A feature button. That's how the Q&A will work. We'll talk about it at the end of the presentation so you guys know how to use it and send questions. Um, you won't be able to send questions in the chat, but the only thing I ask is just save all your questions for the Q&A until the end, because during the presentation, we won't be able to answer any of your questions. Okay, so looks like it's 9:33 our time here in Canada. So I'm just going to get the presentation started. So yeah, welcome everybody to the Canador 2026 fall pre-departure orientation webinar. So in case you guys don't know, this is essentially a webinar designed to give you a bunch of information that can help you before you come to Canada. So it's going to give you information on registration. It's going to give you information on traveling, what it's like here in Canada, what the campus is like, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, without further ado, let's get right into it. So as we start this pre-departure session here at Canador College, we want to take a moment to acknowledge the land we're on. We do this to show respect and gratitude for the Indigenous people who lived here for many generations. Canador College is located on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, within lands protected by the Robinson-Huron Treaty of 1850. This land has been home to Nipissing First Nation since time immemorial. Even though we're in this meeting virtually today, we want to recognize the importance of this land we call home. This is part of our commitment to building better relationships and understanding between nations and to learning more about the local Indigenous peoples and their cultures. Across Canada, we acknowledge the land of the Inuit, Métis, and First Nations people. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to go over a quick agenda of what we're going to be talking about today. So we're going to start off with an introduction to Canada, talking about what it's like here in Canada, North Bay, Ontario, and Canadore College. And then we're going to go over some registration related matters that I think you guys would be interested in hearing about, just so you're informed about your registration. And then we're going to talk about travel, a bunch of important topics, so you guys, and then the health insurance that you guys will all have here. And then finally, we're going to go over living in Canada and what daily life is like, and important information for stuff like bank accounts, currencies, phones, yeah, housing, stuff like that. One thing though is this session is roughly going to go for an hour and a half. It does vary, but at the end, we'll be hosting a Q&A. So if you guys have any questions, I encourage you to save them for the Q&A, which is, yeah, so you guys might notice in the Teams meeting, there is a Q&A feature. So that's how you guys will be able to send questions to us, but I just encourage you to save your questions till the end, because during the presentation, we won't be able to answer any. All right, so let's get right into it. So, introduction to Canada. So I'm going to introduce my colleague, Hina Sharma, who's going to talk about, give you guys an introduction to Canada.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody from all around the world. So let's begin this pre-departure orientation with some of the introduction to Canada. So since you're looking at the map, it gives you quite idea of where North Bay is located within a Canada. So we all know Canada is a very large country, and Ontario, which is highlighted, is one of its province. And North Bay is typically located in the northern part of Ontario, and it is about 3.5 hours from Toronto and Ottawa. Next slide, please. So North Bay is a beautiful mid-sized city in Ontario. It is also known as Gateway to the North because of its location and connection to the major highways. The city offers a balance between nature, safety, and other amenities. It is also very student friendly and has an extremely warm and welcoming community. It helps international students to feel comfortable as they begin their journey in Canada. Next slide, please. So from this map, you can typically see that North Bay is strategically located just 3.5 hours from major Ontario cities like Toronto and Ottawa. Since most of you will be likely be arriving from Toronto, so it is good to know that there are several bus transportation available to help you get to North Bay easily. And these transportation will be discussed later on in the other slides. Next slide, please. So this is much fun part. So Canada is very lucky to have all 4 seasons. And here in North Bay, you will also experience all the 4 seasons, each offering its own unique and charm. Since you will be arriving in September, so it will be fall, which is one of my favorite season as well. And you will believe me later on when you'll be here. So fall in North Bay is especially beautiful because the leaf changes bright into red, orange, and yellow colors, but the temperature will start to cool down suddenly. So once you have settled in, you should begin your classes, and we recommend you to prepare for the winter season because winter gets extremely cold and snowy in North Bay. And we suggest you to invest in good winter coat. Since I was an international student as well, I saved my money and bought my first winter coat after arriving in Canada. I haven't bought anything from back home, just when I arrived it here. So just a little tip for you guys. Next slide, please. So this chart shows you kind of an average seasonal temperature from where you can see that the temperature suddenly drops from fall into winter and it goes to very chilly. So we strongly recommend checking daily weather forecast when you are leaving home, because sometimes it could rain suddenly or it would be very sunny. So I always go by the weather map. So whenever you are leaving for classes, for work, or for any fun activities, always check the weather map. Next slide, please. So preparing for fall. Always dress in layers, like I mentioned. Weather can change quickly from 4 degrees Celsius to minus 25 degrees Celsius. So layers will help you to adjust the temperature easily. Avoid overheating and remove a layer if you feel that you are feeling kind of sweaty. Stay dry and always bring extras. So wet clothes can make you feel much colder. Always wear waterproof or water resistant outer layers. Always bring extra socks or gloves in case yours gets wet during rainy season or during winter as well. Cover up. This is one of the most important thing to do. Protect all of your exposed skin during in cold days. The more you cover up, the warmer you'll be, and you will enjoy winters as well. You shouldn't be sitting at home and do nothing during winter, so always cover up. Next slide, please. So at Canadore, you are more than a number. We are here to help you succeed, and we have lots of excellent programs and award-winning faculties to assist you in preparing for your future career. And Canadore has 3 beautiful campuses across the North Bay. So we have a main campus which is at College Drive, one is at Commerce Court, and when we have the aviation campus which is near our Jack Garland Airport. All these campuses offer modern equipment, excellent libraries, facilities, athletic facilities, and dedicated international office. And we have very affordable residence option as well. Next slide, please. So on campuses, students can find many useful spaces and services, such as we have a Harris Learning Library, which is in our main College Drive campus. Feel free to go there, and it is such a huge and beautiful library. You will feel like studying something in that library. So we have cafeteria in all of our campuses. We have Panther Dome, which is near our Commerce Court campus. We have fitness centers, international office, and other student services. So all these services are here to support your academic health, your personal health, your wellness, and all of your student experience that you'll be feeling here. Next slide, please. So this is another fun thing. So we have introduced our Frosh Week, which is a great opportunity to meet new people, explore the campuses, and feel more connected to Canadore. So for fall 2026, the Frosh Week runs from Monday, September 14 to Saturday, September 19. So there will be a bunch of different activities throughout these week, including all the different campuses activities, events, markets, and other social activities. So just hold on to it. You will be notified of this event in details later on, and make sure to be a part of this event and feel more connected to the community, more connected to the campus, and make so many lots of friends. Next slide, please. So finally, please remember that the in-person international orientation is on September 4 at 9 a.m. And attendance is mandatory for this orientation, because during this orientation, you will learn about campus services, you will meet your staff, you will meet your fellow students, fellow classmates, you will understand academic expectations and get more information to start successfully of your career. If you are already registered, please make sure to attend this session, as it is very helpful for everyone. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Hina. So now I'd like to introduce my colleague, Sylvie Burns, and she's going to talk about registration-related matters for you guys.
Hi there, good morning. Okay, so when it comes to registration, it's important to understand that receiving a letter of acceptance and accepting it, making your payments and doing everything that needs to be done through the OCAS application portal does not mean you're registered and ready to begin classes. So in order for that to happen, you will, once your visa is approved and you travel to Canada, you then receive your study permit. In order to be able to register, you will need to be in Canada and have received your actual study permit document, and you will upload that to your OCAS application. Once that's been uploaded, allow us a little bit of time, usually within 1 to 2 business days, usually quicker than that. Our team will review your study permit, ensure that you have all the documents required, and then you will be notified that you're able to register. In addition, if there's, if you have a work permit as well, upload that. It just helps facilitate things later down the road. If questions are to come up, it's just helpful to have all your documents in one spot. So once you register for classes, so that is done on what's called a student self-service account. Once you've done the registration, just remember at the very end to click submit to register. That's a button at the very bottom. A lot of students will miss this step, because what happens is when you select the block that you're going to register into, it will populate a preview of what your timetable will be. And many students just kind of take a screenshot of that and they think that, okay, perfect, I'm registered, I'm ready to go start my classes on the first day. Actually, no, you're not registered. That was just a preview of what your timetable could have looked like. So you need to make sure that once you see that preview of your timetable, scroll down further and click the button submit to register. Next slide. Unfortunately, it does happen. Visa applications and study permit applications do get refused at times. You don't want it to happen to you. However, if it does happen, you have the option to defer until the next available intake. If you look on your OCAS application and you don't see an option for the deferral for, let's say you want to defer to winter of 2027, but you don't see your program listed, that's okay. It is possible that it may not be available in winter of 2027, or it's just possible that it's just not appearing for you. So there is a box, it's a comment box. Make sure that you type in there, physically type in what it is that you're looking for if you can't find it in the drop-down menu. The deadline to defer is August 20th of 2026. However, if you receive, a visa a refusal that comes in after that date, reach out to us. We might have the flexibility to be able to make an exception. I can't promise you that we can, but we can see if it's a possibility to do a late deferral. If it's not possible for the late deferral, then your application will be closed and you'll need to reapply and pay the application fee. Okay. Now, I just want to make sure that you all have the correct information. You can send us an email, international.admissions@canadorcollege.ca, if you have questions about your deferrals. Next slide. Withdrawals and refunds. Our refund policy and withdrawal policy is on the website. If you scan the QR code, it will take you there. Ensure that you look for the policy for international students, because it does list the policy for domestic and international. If you receive a visa refusal, and you provide proof of this refusal, which is the visa refusal letter, within 60 days and request your refund within those 60 days, the administration fee we withhold from your fees is $300. That's if you provide it within the 10th day of class. Again, it's very important that you go and look at the refund policy. I could list them all here, but there is a high probability that it could be misconstrued, or there could be a miscommunication between what I'm telling you now here on the webinar and what the actual policy is. So ensure that you go on the website, scan the QR code, and get familiar with our policies. Next slide. BYOD. So this stands for Bring Your Own Device. Canadore College does not provide electronic devices such as a laptop to our students. The students are responsible for bringing their own device, which means they're responsible for the cost of this device. They're responsible for the maintenance, for the security, for the programs required that may be necessary for your courses. And now you might wonder, how do I know it's compatible? What kind of device do I need? If you go to this website, so canadorecollege.ca, bring your own device, and look at your program, it will tell you what you need. Just make sure that you follow those directions and that guidance. Next slide. Off to you, Chris.
All right. Thank you very much, Sylvie. So now I'm going to introduce my other colleague. I've got a lot of colleagues, Sonia Takar, and she's going to talk to you guys about travel-related matters before you're coming to Canada.
Thank you, Chris. Welcome to all our students, and I am pretty sure that you must be very excited to start your journey in Canada. I also know that it's not easy to leave your home country and pack your life so far in 2 bags and go to a country, but that's how it is if you want to make your career ahead. We'll be quickly talking about the important aspects of travel, wherein the first important thing that comes is where to live when you are in North Bay. So make sure that either you look for an on-campus or off-campus accommodation. The on-campus accommodation link is provided in this presentation, which is our website /Canadore Residence. You will get the details on how to book, how much to pay, and whether it's refundable or not. Also, there are off-campus options available at websites like Kijiji, Marketplace, and rental.ca. Make sure that you're alert enough that you don't fall into any scam. Don't make any payments online before coming. Make sure that you have a temporary housing when you come here, and then you make the payment when you are in North Bay for an off-campus housing. Um, we have number of Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, groups on Telegram, on social media. So these are informal information groups wherein the students are there, your previous alumni, the students already studying at Canada are there. They will give you important information, but always rely on the website for accurate information. We also encourage students to download the iSent app, which gives you a lot of updates on orientation, pre-departure sessions, about your health insurance. It gives you information on various workshops that happen on campus. So make sure you download that. And if you're interested in driving, you must have an international driving permit. And when you come to North Bay, anyway, students start learning how to drive and get the Canadian driving license here. So make sure that the place to live is an important aspect, and you do your relevant arrangements before coming. Next slide, please. So again, where to live is important, but how to travel, booking your flights is also important. We always suggest students that you must book your flights after your visa approval. There have been cases in past where students book flights before visa approval, and then they sometimes book through travel agents or agencies, and then they lose a lot of money. And if you have anxiety and you want to book the flight in advance so that you don't end up booking an expensive flight, make sure you book the non-refundable option. Sorry, refundable option, but we always kind of suggest student to book flights after visa approval. If you're coming through a country via connecting flight, make sure you're aware of the transit requirements. Sometimes if you're kind of coming through US, they require the visa as well. So make sure you're not troubled that way. You have the entire information. You have access to internet. You should do your research before coming. Your health insurance at Canadore starts 15 days before your classes, and the classes are starting on 8th of September. However, if you have any prior condition, we have had students in past with certain health ailments, you must carry a supplemental insurance to kind of support you in case of any emergency. Obviously, we don't want anyone to fall sick, but this is all emergency cases. There are certain flights that allow students to carry 3 bags as a first time student traveling abroad. Do check those flights. However, the general rule is 23 kgs, 2 bags. Uh, I know it's difficult to pack your life in 2 bags, but that's how it is. So always smartly pack the essentials which are required. You will get everything in North Bay. There are a lot of things that students carry and later realize that you can anyway get them in North Bay. Like my colleague Hina was telling, that don't pack your bag with too many winter jackets or clothes, because sometimes these from your home country are not meant for the Canadian weather. So it's better that you carry just a couple and rest you buy when you're in North Bay. Next slide, please. Yes, there are certain things that you should definitely carry, like hygiene products. You should always carry all country adapters, because if you are transiting through a different country or an airport and if your phone is not working, it does give anxiety. So make sure you have all country charging pin. You must have a power bank. You should carry certain stationery. Sometimes students do carry a few utensils as well from their home country. Please make sure that you do not pack fruits, vegetables. These are not allowed. You must also go through the CBSA website for the restricted items. I remember in past, one of the students, they packed coconuts. So please make sure that you don't do that. It's available in North Bay and they are not allowed. You will face issues because your luggage bag will be secluded. You will be asked questions. And in recent times, I don't know if you follow news very closely. I know certain people who had to pay penalty at Toronto Pearson airports for carrying these items. So don't do that. Okay. So we are not trying to intimidate you. We are just trying to make you understand that you don't need to carry these things. Next slide, please. So obviously you will have the luggage bag and you will also have your carry-on luggage that you take inside the aircraft. So as I was saying, you must have a power bank. You must have your important medications as part of your little pouch in your carry-on bag, and rest of the major medicines should be in the luggage bag. You should carry all your important documents in one folder, your offer letter, this copy of your passport, your English proficiency, your financial documents, your educational documents. I always suggest students that you should be having a photocopy of these documents, an extra file. Um, since I've been in this work for over a decade, I know that certain students lost the documents and then they were in a mess. So always carry photocopy of your documents because they're really helpful when you are in need. So all these travel related documents should be in one folder. Uh, and if you feel there are any other documents related to your insurance, you should carry that. Just keep a light jacket in your carry-on luggage because sometimes I know people feel cold in the flight and they are of longer duration, extending up to 15, 16 hours. Don't carry any sharp items because they're taken out at security and you will feel that you've lost money and you've wasted the product. And don't carry anything which is flammable, any liquids which are above 100 ml. Don't do that, okay? Next slide. When you are finally at the Toronto Pearson Airport, you will definitely go through a step-by-step process. So a border officer will do the initial check and will ask you to go to the secondary examination. You don't have to get nervous specifically at this process. It is a very smooth process and goes on very quickly if you have the required documents. I always say one thing in all such sessions that we have for pre-departures, that the most important thing apart from all the documents that you carry is that you must carry confidence and a smile. You must carry that zeal to ask questions. When you are nervous, it adds to your issue. So be confident in answering the questions because these are very usual questions. Which city are you going to? Show your IELTS document or PT, whatever you have given. And they will ask, do you have financial documents right now with you? So be very prepared, calm, and confident. And this entire process of primary examination, secondary, and luggage collection will happen very smoothly. And once you're through this process, you will be given a study permit. And as my colleague Sylvie was mentioning, this document of study permit is actually the document that you can use to register on OCAS to be called a registered student for fall 2026 for Canadore College. And once you kind of collect your luggage, you actually move out of the airport and hand over your declaration card to the CBSA official. Next slide, please. Next slide, Chris. So when it comes to travel, students often ask if we have received a study visa like 2 months in advance, can we travel to Canada? As per the border compliance, you should be traveling to Canada 4 weeks in advance, not before that. The rooms at residence will be available starting the week of September 4th, and we do not encourage late arrivals. So the first day of class is 8th September, which is Tuesday, and we encourage all students to consider that as the last date of registration also, though our orientation is on 4th September and it's mandatory, we expect students to come before that. But if in case of XYZ reasons you're not able to attend on 4th September, then you must be there on the first day of class. Late arrivals usually risk uh, the possibility of losing the seat and the intake, and it's not encouraged. And we don't want that situation for you, because you will lose money and you will also cannot be in Canada on study permit and then not studying. Okay, next slide. Uh, when you have reached Toronto Pearson Airport, there are a number of ways for you to go to North Bay. The first one is the option of a flight from Toronto to North Bay, which is a 40 minutes flight, very convenient. But since it will be your first time, I sometimes also suggest students that it's always very interesting to kind of see that journey from Toronto to North Bay, which is really beautiful, and you don't even realize when those 3 hours pass. So there is a service called Northern Airport Service. You don't even have to go out of Toronto Pearson. You just book the service from within the Toronto Pearson Airport. There's this bus that takes you to North Bay, very convenient. And there's also an option of Ontario Northland that can take you from Toronto to North Bay. So both very convenient options, and you can book that in advance, knowing when you're arriving at Toronto. Next slide, please. So yeah, that was all for the travel related matters. All the best for your travel, and make sure that you carry the smile and the confidence that I had mentioned about, in addition to all the documents. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Sonia. All right. So you guys are going to get me talking for a while. So get ready for that. You guys already know me. I'm Christopher Smith. I'm the coordinator of International Student Services here at Canadore. And the first thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is a bunch of important stuff I think you guys should be concerned about and to think about before you come to Canada. So first things first, we know that some students do have children and they're planning on bringing their children to Canada. We want to let you know of a couple things that we think you should be aware of regarding that before you come here. So the first thing is that children aren't allowed in classrooms in Canada. It can be unsafe, may cause distractions for the teachers, and bringing any child to class may result in being asked to leave the program or class without a refund, impacting your study permit and future opportunities in Canada. So it's not allowed to bring children to class. Children should never be left home alone in Canada. Leaving children under the age of 16 unattended can result in serious consequences, including criminal charges, deportation, and withdrawal from your studies. And on top of that, childcare fees are expensive in Canada. They can range from 30 Canadian dollars to 60 Canadian dollars a day. Most centers also will charge for a full week or full work week of 5 days, regardless of whether or not you need all 5 days. In addition, waitlist for childcare can situationally be up to 6 years, and that means finding childcare is also not guaranteed. And school-age children may still need care before and after school when coming to Canada. So all this basically says is you guys should be, if you're planning on bringing children to Canada, it's important to consider that all this adds up to childcare is a big thing you guys will need to plan around if that's your plan. You can't leave your children at home. It's expensive. It can be difficult to find childcare, and even children who will be attending schools will need care before and after. If you are bringing children to Canada and you have questions, please reach out to international@canadorecollege.ca for more information. Also, you can keep a lookout for our Coming to Canada series, the one about bringing your child to Canada should be coming out. It maybe already has come out or it's coming out soon. Another thing I think you guys should be aware of is understanding your financial responsibilities. As you may know, studying in Canada can be expensive. Costs can include books and supplies, residence and housing, food and entertainment, laptop, clothing, childcare if you are bringing a child, and transportation. These, as you guys can see from the chart, these numbers are not small. I mean, residence and housing in itself is about $8,000. On top of books and supplies is $1,800. This is all costs in addition to your class fees. So we want you to be fully aware of the costs associated with living in Canada and your studies. And this is all like expected fees. So you guys can see all of this. It totals up to above 15,000 Canadian dollars in addition to your fees of studying in Canada. And then you can also have unexpected fees. So it's really, really important to understand that, yes, this stuff can be expensive. And as an adult student studying at Canada or college in Canada, you're expected to be able to cover the costs of your studies and living expenses. There's also some other financial considerations. Employment is not guaranteed. Many students do not find work, and it can, so it's unreliable. And we'll talk about this a little bit more. Even if you do find work, it can be insufficient to fully pay for all of your expenses. In almost all cases at Canada, we do not provide payment extensions or reprieves for students coming to study in Canada. Consequences of missed payments may include not being able to register, your seat being revoked, or non-compliance with your study permit if you aren't attending your classes. So like I said before, you must take full responsibility for managing your finances and consider your budget carefully before arriving in Canada. This is really, really important, guys. I do want to talk about budgeting basics. I'm sure you guys understand the concepts of budgeting, but I'm just going to cover it over again. So, budgeting is planning how to spend and save your money and to consider what your core needs are as a student to avoid financial stress. So it's about prioritizing your needs and your wants. Your needs being things like tuition, housing, food, transportation, clothing, school supplies, childcare, and medicine, and wants being what we would consider discretionary or stuff that, might not be essentially required, but it's nice to have, like eating out, entertainment, gadgets, extra clothing, leisure travel, or optional subscriptions, gifts, and stuff like that. Like I said before, payment plans and installments are not available, and accepting an offer to study in Canada, it means confirming that you have the funds to cover all required costs for your length of studies here in Canada. Be fully prepared to support yourself for the duration of your studies. You cannot rely on part-time work to cover your essential expenses. Jobs and hours are not guaranteed. Employment challenges are not accepted as a reason for incomplete payments or for tuition or rent. So you need to plan your finances. So I've said this a lot. Should tell you guys that this is important. We want you guys to be informed and aware of that. In case you guys do have any questions, there's a couple ways you can get your questions answered quickly. The first one is to download the iCent app. I believe during Sonia's part, we had a bit of a link to it, but I'm going to talk about it a bit more in detail. So the iCent app is essentially an application we have at Canadore. It's got a bunch of, FAQs, useful links, links to our website where you can find information and services. So that's probably, and all international students, as long as you're registered, have access to the iCent app. It's essentially your guide to everything at Canadore. So it's really, really helpful. You guys can scan the QR code on the left if you guys are interested. So yeah, check that out. The next best source is probably our website. It's got a bunch of information that is helpful for you guys. And then on our website, we have FAQs. FAQs are it stands for frequently asked questions, if you guys don't understand. So it's essentially a collection of questions that we get asked a lot. We've basically put the answers there already, so you guys can look it up and get the answers without having to ask us, save you guys time and energy. There's also the Coming to Canada series. So this will be sent straight to your email. And it's also available on our FAQs as well. They're packed with essential tips to prepare you for your journey, to settle in, And yeah, so just keep an eye out for this. You guys should all be receiving them. If you haven't already, I would check your spam box. And if you still have any questions after all this, which there's a very good chance there could be, if you have application or registration questions, you guys can send them to international.admissions@canadaorcollege.ca. And then for all other inquiries or questions you might have, you can send them to international@canadaorcollege.ca. Here's another thing too. We talked a bit about our orientation session on September 4th, but you guys can always scan this QR code and it leads to our welcome page on our Canada Or College website, and it has all sorts of information for upcoming workshops and orientation sessions you guys might want to hear about. After this presentation is concluded, we're actually recording this right now. It'll be posted on this webpage, so you guys can review it if you guys want afterwards. So yeah, that's a bunch of important information we want you to know before coming here. The main one is finances, very important, so keep that in mind. Now I'm going to talk to you guys about health insurance. So as international students, you guys are all basically issued this health insurance through the college. It's called GuardMe. It's essentially an emergency health insurance plan for international students. I'm going to talk a little bit about what it covers and what it doesn't cover in a general overview. I'm not going to go into detail, but I do want you guys to be aware of when you guys will get access to your insurance, what it will look like, and when you guys can expect it to happen. So right now, we're before the start of the term. You guys haven't come yet. You're incoming, I guess we could say. And you do not have access to your insurance plans yet. But that does not necessarily mean you aren't covered. Right now, you aren't covered though. So 15 days before the start of the class, essentially, an emergency coverage grace period happens. So while you don't have access to your plan, the plan could cover certain costs on an emergency basis. Let's say if you get hospitalized for an accident while you're studying or while you're in Canada before you arrive to class, this is what the emergency coverage grace period happens. And then you guys will, once that passes, in the first day of class, your coverage for your insurance plan officially begins. So we'll talk a bit more about it during the orientation as well, but you will have coverage. However, you still won't have access to your insurance. This is because it takes about 10 days to process all the information and documentation regarding the insurance to actually have it issued to the student. So after 10 days, your information on how you can access your health insurance plan is sent to you via your email, and then you can access the app for your insurance and download your card. Now, something you have noticed, you only get access after those 10 days, but you do actually have coverage as of the first day of class. So you're like, okay, well, if I have coverage, but I can't access it, how am I going to use the insurance? Well, essentially, if you do run into any medical expenses before you have coverage, we can work together to submit a claim on those expenses once you get access to it. That's how it'll work. Now, some of you might be bringing children, spouses. These would be considered dependents, and you might be arriving before 15 days. Through the insurance, you do have the option to purchase additional coverage for dependents or additional coverage for yourself for early arrivals. Now, for the dependents, this means that spouses and children aren't automatically covered under your policy. You do need to actually go out and purchase that, so be aware of that. And you will need access to your policy number. I think the rate is $1.65 a day. So for each additional dependent you're adding to your plan, and you need to purchase the plan for the same length of time as yourself. So that's you guys are issued a plan for 365 days, so you would need to pay $365 for each dependent, or 365 days worth of plan for each dependent. And then for the early arrivals, it's at the same rate of $1.65, and you can purchase it up to 60 days before the start of the term. And they make a minimum online purchase of $20. We also, through Canada, we have a custom site with GuardMe. It leads to customer service numbers, areas where you can get questions and stuff like this. On our webpage, you guys can find it under the international page in case you're curious. And yeah, this is a good source for questions on your health insurance. All right, and then what does the health insurance actually cover? Well, it's primarily emergency health insurance. This means essentially it will pretty much cover any sort of emergency you run into, whether that's a hospitalization, you have to take an ambulance ride, you break an arm or something like this, it'll probably cover it. There is exclusions to that. It won't cover what they call pre-existing or chronic conditions. That means any conditions that you had prior to coming to Canada or that are expected to last longer than your like much longer than your plan at Canada. So like an example of a pre-existing chronic condition, which say if you had like a long-term cancer or something like this, or if you had asthma. Asthma is a good example because a lot of people have it before coming to Canada, and it's going to pretty much last for a long time. One thing I do want to highlight is the pregnancy coverage for the insurance. So through the Garmy plan, it covers up to $25,000 worth of pregnancy costs, but there's an important flag for like what it will cover in the pregnancy. So the plan will only cover pregnancies that were initiated, which means that they were the baby was conceived less than 30 days from the policy start date. So your policy start date in this case would be September 4th. So if the pregnancy started more than 30 days before September 4th, then it would not be considered covered under the policy. If it's less than, then it would be covered under the policy when you eventually might have your pregnancy in Canada. All right, so that's my part for the insurance. If you have any questions about the insurance or you're curious, you can always reach out to me at insurance.international@canadacollege.ca. I'm always happy to help out students with that because we understand insurance can be a confusing process. Now, I've got another part as well. I told you you'd be hearing a lot from me. So this part's about living in Canada. All right, so living in Canada. So part-time employment. So there are employment opportunities in Canada, and like we talked about, you can't really rely on accessing them, but there are ways you can potentially get them. So there's a couple of resources that we like to highlight for students. The Job Bank of Canada is a great place to look for jobs. LinkedIn as well, Indeed, and then we also have a campus job website through Canadore Employment Solutions where you can look at opportunities for employment on campus as a student. I do want to warn you guys that there are job scams, and it's important to be aware of them. There's a couple of red flags you can look out for a job scam. They might ask you for personal banking details. A lot of job scams also urge you to act quickly and immediately. They will offer high pay for simple tasks. Like, for example, there's a job that requires you to babysit dogs for 2 hours and it's offering like $4,000. I would be like, oh man, that's the amount of money they're offering for this job is not really comparable to the work they're asking me to do. So that might be a red flag. Also, if there's a job you see that reaches out to you or you find online and you can't find any information on the company separately, that might be concerning. So keep an eye out for these kinds of red flags. It doesn't necessarily mean that a job is a scam when you see one of these red flags, but it should make you wary of that job if you see one of these red flags to say like, okay, maybe it is a scam, maybe I should be careful. What can you do to protect yourself? We always recommend researching the company before applying to make sure it's a legitimate company. Ignore unsolicited job offers. That means any job offers you get that you haven't like sought out and applied for yourself. Use trusted job platforms. We listed them here, like the Job Bank, LinkedIn, Campus Jobs. Never pay for a job. If a job is asking you for money, usually jobs pay you money. If they're asking you for money, that should be a red flag. I can't really see any reason why a job would be asking you for money in advance. And then if you're unsure about a job being a scam, you can always reach out to me or somebody else on campus, and they can give you advice on like, okay, this job might be a scam. So there is like we mentioned before, the Coming to Canada email series. There is one that sends out job search tips if you guys are curious as well. So yeah. Now I'm going to talk about on-campus housing. So at Canadore, we do have residences. If you're interested and you have not already applied, please make sure you apply. There may be a wait list depending on the number of applicants. You can always check out the residence page at www.canadorecollege.ca/Canadore residence. And it has fitness rooms, lounges, on-site laundry, high-speed Wi-Fi, and it's relatively close to groceries and shopping areas, and also the campus. So that's always nice. It's in a convenient location for you guys to live your lives. There's also the option to do off-campus accommodations. There's places, it is your responsibility to find and acquire off-campus accommodations. Well, any accommodations actually. It's your responsibility to make sure you have applied for residence or found housing elsewhere. So there's some nice places I can point out for you guys to search though. There's always www.placesforstudents.com. This is basically a marketplace where people have put out that they're looking explicitly for students to rent their locations. There's also Facebook Marketplace and Rent Seeker. There's also home share options in North Bay. You can find them on www.canadorecollege.ca/support/housing. We also have a lot of places of worship here in North Bay. There's many churches of various faiths, including Christian, Catholic, Sikh, Temple, and Muslim faiths. So on the left here, there's a QR code. If you guys are curious whether or not we have a location for you, you can scan this QR code. It gives you a list of a lot of them. One thing I do want to note though is we do have a Sikh temple in North Bay. It does not appear on this list. So if you guys are curious, you can search for that Sikh temple. I believe they have an Instagram account. It's pictured on the right there. Another thing you guys are going to need to do here in Canada is get a cell phone plan. There's some major providers that like Fido, Koodo, Virgin, Rogers, and Bell. They provide student-friendly or international student-friendly talk time deals based on usage and needs of each student. But any sort cell phone providers will require proof of ID. So we recommend if you're looking for a cell phone plan that you carry your passport. Now, I do know at the airport, they'll have booths for you to like get cell phone plans and just go and get yourself set up early. There's also a lot of, and I guess this is a new development, but a lot of cell phone providers now are offering eSIMs as well. So if you are in, you can always try to get an eSIM or get your cell phone plan at the airport right as you arrive. That might be the most convenient option for you. Another thing I think might be unfamiliar to you guys is banking. So because everywhere banking works differently, but in Canada we use the Canadian dollar. So it's on that picture. You see all those colorful notes. It's kind of a plasticky material. It's the only currency that's commonly accepted in Canada. So if you're bringing like, I don't know, US dollars here or something like that, a lot of almost nobody's going to accept US dollars in Canada. We use Canadian dollars. You can exchange most currencies for Canadian at any commercial bank. The airport also has exchange booths you can access, but I think they might charge higher prices. We recommend that as soon as you arrive in Canada, you make sure that you have access to Canadian dollars or some way of paying in Canadian dollars, whether that could be a credit card or a prepaid card, or you bring some cash on hand just to make sure that you can pay for things essentially. Another thing, you guys are going to need to get set up with a bank account when you arrive in Canada. So Canada has, 6 major banks, but I think in North Bay we only have 5 of those banks. TD, BMO, which stands for Bank of Montreal, CIBC, which is, I forget, RBC, which is Royal Bank of Canada, and Scotiabank. They are pretty similar. They're pretty comparable in their plans and benefits. I do think a lot of our students like to get set up with CIBC because they have a branch nearby our campus. But they're all pretty comparable in terms of the plans they offer to students. So yeah, They also all have branches close to campus. I think CIBC is the closest though. And then there's grocery stores. So you guys are probably going to be shopping in Canada. And I have pictures on the right of what grocery stores typically look like in Canada. There's a produce section of a grocery store. But in North Bay, with international grocery stores have started opening up, and they're increasing the diversity of food options. Most grocery stores also tend to have an additional diverse aisle with food from a bunch of locations you might recognize from your home. So some local options might be, No Frills, Freshco, Walmart, Spices Village, or Bulk Barn. There's also a bunch of restaurants in North Bay. I like a lot of these restaurants, to be honest. I like food. So if you guys are curious about a restaurant, reach out to me. I'm happy to give you my recommendations on where to go. But if you don't feel like cooking, we got a really awesome diversity of restaurants like Gangnam Korea, Mr. Poncho's, Sukdev, Indra's Curry House. You can see a whole bunch pictured here. One thing I do want to mention is culture shock. So as you guys are international students, you're coming to Canada presumably for the first time. The expectation is that you're going to experience a lot of new things here in Canada, because Canadian culture is different than what you might be used to back home, and in many different ways probably. So I've got a couple pictures here. We've got a mounted policeman on a moose, and winter. You guys might be shocked at the winter, but culture shock is a common experience. It's pretty much universal for international students. And you might get excited about moving to a new country at first. It can feel thrilling. It can feel like, wow, there's all this new stuff. But over time, difficulties tend to pile up. They arise once your daily routines start, once you start having to deal with the systems, like the banking system, maybe the insurance system. And this is normal. Like I said, it's pretty much universal that somebody's going to feel some level of culture shock. You might not actually realize it's culture shock when you're experiencing it. This is also very common, but if you look back on it, you'll be like, oh man, I was probably feeling culture shock at that time. So it's very common. And if you guys are worried about preparing for culture shock, one of the best things that you can do in advance to ease your transition during culture shock and make it less impactful is to research ahead of time how Canadian cultures and systems are different to what you're familiar with, and get an understanding of, okay, this is how I can, this is like what I can expect here in Canada. Also, once you are here in Canada, we're always here, happy to support you. You got to know a couple of my colleagues during this presentation. There's a bunch of support services that can help you adjust to life here in Canada once you're here. Also driving. So you guys might be interested in driving here in Canada. Sonia talked about this here, but you do need access to a driver's license. You can't just take your driver's license from your home country and come here in Canada. As an international student, if you already do have a license from your home country, you will need to obtain an international driver's permit in your own country and bring it in advance with your valid driver's license. When you are in Canada, you may also apply for an Ontario driver's license, and that's what's pictured there. That's what an Ontario driver's license looks like. If you don't already have a driver's license, you can also apply for an Ontario driver's license. Ontario operates on what's called a graduated driver's licensing system, which means that essentially you will get a learner's permit to start, which is called the G1. And you get this after you write a written exam. You can only drive under limited conditions, like with another driver, like with another experienced driver. You can't enter highways and stuff like this. And then you can write, after a period of time with your learner's permit, you can go up to what's called a G2, which is like an advanced learner's permit. And that lets you drive alone and on highways and stuff like this. And then once you do another road test, you can then go to, and you need to have this driver's license for like a period of time. I think it's 9 to 12 months. And then you can write your final road test to get your full license. So it's important to note that, yes, you do need a driver's license here in Canada. But other than driving, there's some other transportation options here in North Bay. So we do have a bus service here in North Bay. It reaches pretty much everywhere in the city, and it's run through what's called North Bay Transit. So if you guys are curious about routes, you can check them out at www.northbay.ca/transit. Most bus routes run every 15, 30, or 60 minutes throughout the day. And then I think the routes tend to be shortened during less busy periods, like at night or on the weekend, like Sundays. There's also other options too, other than buses. We have U-Ride, which is like Uber. Taxis are available, like Taxi 50, and you need a cab. Also, as long as there's not snow on the ground, North Bay actually has a lot of really great bike trails that connect the city. Actually, a lot of people even bike. You saw a picture of it at the start. People biking in the snow on these bikes with big wide wheels. They're called fat tire bikes. A lot of people actually bike in the winter too. So it's something people do. So we actually do have a lot of really nice bike trails around the city and a lot of places within walking distance as well. Now, through transit, you guys will have to access the bus system through an app called My Ride NBT. And once you get issued your student IDs, you can access the transit system, essentially. You have to download the app, provide your rider information, select your payment option, monthly, bus pass, cash, or transfer. The app lets you know, and the app, this is a nice thing about the app too, it can let you know when to expect the bus as well. So it lets you know like how far the bus is and where to wait for the bus. And then you can watch the bus arrive in real time via the app. It can also lead you to the most convenient bus stop for where you're trying to get. The bus service also offers what's called dynamic dispatching. I think you have to pay extra for this, but you can access it at 705-474-0419. If you're curious about transit routes or dynamic dispatching, there's some QR codes you can scan. Like I said, this will be uploaded later on the orientation welcome page for international students, so you can always access this after as well. And yeah, that's pretty much it for what we have to say for you today. So I'd just like to say a couple thank yous to everybody who helped put this together and helped me deliver this. So thank you to GuardMe, the admissions office, registrar's office, Student Success Services, the residence team, the Employment Solutions team, and the international department. So thank you to everybody. And yes, thank you to you guys. So special thanks to all of you for coming here and attending the orientation, the pre-departure orientation. All the best and safe travels. And I hope you guys feel more prepared now. So like I said, though, international orientation is mandatory. It's on September 4th. So I hope to see you guys all there. And yeah, so now I guess we'll be opening up the Q&A.